We're now going to do a brief Q&A. I would normally kick off with a question myself, but we're pretty short on time. So is anyone, oh, we're going to be brave. Okay, we have one here. Hopefully it's the right size and the right color. Shoot.
Rich, I have a question for you. It's about the onboarding stuff that we're already talking about. So I'm checking my emails. So I have one from Dominic, like from 2016, and it was actually the person who was onboarding me. And then I have emails from Chris as well, and emails from you.
Good.
So I'm just long time.
So you're a customer, surely?
I'm watching. You are too expensive for us, right? I'm watching for you for a long time. Yeah, you have a pretty cool product actually. Yeah. But what I wanted to ask you. So how your team is actually now restructured in order to onboard the customers? So is it Dominic or you are still sending? Is it from your name the customers are being onboarded, or from your growth team? Who is actually doing all this stuff? Instead of you?
Yeah, I mean that's changed a lot in the last probably 6 to 8 months, and largely the structure of the team there in San Francisco has been behind that. We could do a whole other session on the kind of demand channels through to SDR process, through to lead qualification and beyond. How it tends to happen now is dependent on the type of company that you are, means you go down certain tracks. And there are different people that get linked to you as we feel is relevant. So if you're a large enterprise customer, you get paired with a technical rep from the off, and your hand is held in a very different way through that process. We have a self-serve process, which is automated and delivers the right information at the right time. That's a much harder task for us with our kind of product, because the kind of initial hump is a little bit larger. Yeah. And that middle ground is there's a kind of guiding person there that figures out what it is you're trying to solve. And our mission, as kind of James is talking about with his own, is we want to get you you'll usually come in with a single pain point. We will try and solve that as quickly as we can.
Connect, assign it to it.
Right, whatever it is, let's get you connected, let's get you onboarded. And during that process, the product education comes in. So it largely depends on what you're charging. For us, our ACV is high enough that we can pay you with a person. If you're charging, $10 to $50 a month or something of that ilk, it needs to be kind of as streamlined as possible, which is how we had initially sort of started out and wasn't a very scalable model.
You are going toward the elephants right now, I believe, right?
Sure, we're certainly working typically with a larger customer. And it means that the sales process we can afford to invest slightly further in.
So you're kind of stepping outside of the Zapier kind of just doing the hard enterprise stuff.
Yeah, we're a modern MuleSoft or a Tibco, right? If you have people do user provisioning on us, or they do. They process, a billion records through Redshift and break them up and put them into another platform. So this is kind of a slightly different integration challenge to what exists at the SMB side of the market.
Cool. Okay. Cool. I'm just conscious we haven't got too much time. So more questions. We've got a couple of hands. I think we've got time for 3 questions. So let's make them good. Let's make them snappy too. Yes. Go for it. I suck at throwing. So. That'll do.
It's actually for you. So, what's an obvious mistake you see in onboarding apps?
Oh, sorry, for me. Oh, right. Sorry. I wasn't expecting to get. Oh, wow. An obvious mistake in onboarding that I see. I think it's. That's a great question. I guess I covered some of them in my talk, but I think often it is just not spending enough time on it, making it sloppy. And there's a lot of really great products out there that have pretty shoddy onboarding. And they're once you get through those hurdles, it's an amazingly well-designed, very thoughtful product, but the steps getting there often are so sloppy or so messy or so difficult that the majority of users don't see that. And I think that's just such a shame when teams and people don't prioritize that side of it. So I think it's just, when you think of that pie chart of where your team spends time, thinking for all the feature work you're doing, how can you maybe move some of that to that first run experience, that onboarding experience, would be my top tip. Cool, great. Thanks for the question. Okay, did I say 3 more? Okay, 2 more questions. So 1 more. We have one right at the back. Oh, everyone's so far away. Go for it. Yeah. Whee! Cool.
I got a question for Rich. So you've been between London and San Francisco quite a bit now, right? And we're kind of going back and forth as well. I was wondering what your experience is with, I guess especially from the investor perspective, how they understood from the beginning on what you were doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think maybe that's enough.
Yeah, I probably need to caveat this, otherwise I'll get in trouble with the London market. I think at the time that we initially were going out in 2012, 2013, it was a very different space. But the big difference for us is we're a very technically oriented team trying to solve a pretty technical challenge. And we found that investors in the US were able to kind of recognize how big that challenge was and how big the opportunity was in a very different way. And so largely they had been at products that perhaps looked like something very small when they started out, but ended up being very big, and were able to have a very different kind of foresight. And I would say they were more sort of product-led in that way. We found the London market was much more about your initial traction and what your forecast was going to lend you to be at a certain point, which may well have changed in the time since we kind of moved over. But for us, there was generally a technical partner at any fund, and that meant that we had a much better opportunity at engaging them and getting them to understand why this was tough and where it was heading.
Cool, thank you. Right, I want 1 question for Dimple and 1 question for Mun. And if no one has any, then I'm going to ask them. So speak now. Oh, okay, good stuff.
Thank you. Question for Dimple. So what does your sales cycle look like? Obviously you're dealing with larger customers, generally speaking. How long does it take to sort of go from first having interaction with them to actually signing the deal? I know it's obviously early days, isn't it?
Yeah. So I guess it really depends on who do you speak to first, and it also depends on how did you get that contact. So for example, if it's coming from your own personal network and you know the person and they said, no, these are the right person, the right people, less than 3 months, even for some of the big companies. Because basically how it would work, you have a meeting with the decision maker, then they bring on their team to just show the product around, hey, look, this is something I'm interested in, let's launch it. And then it's just about finding the right resources. So it can be less than 3 months, but that's really lucky. Otherwise, usually 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months, but that can extend, again, sometimes with some pharmaceutical companies, we've just been, it's been a year since we've having conversations. And clearly, now that I go back to what is our sales strategy, because all the time it's about, all right, the obvious things, but actually go back to what it is and sort of write it down. I actually go back and I think about it, and my questioning wasn't right. So when I was actually talking to that person, I didn't ask the right questions, therefore the right decision maker didn't come on board. They thought, for example, one of them thought that what we could do is, and I was talking to, was it Tom, a Q&A forum. They're like, oh no, but it's much better to use a Q&A forum. I was like, that's solving similar problem, but in a very different way. So you need to know what is it exactly that you want to solve. Obviously, I can transfer that lead to you now, but essentially it's really about questioning the right people, 6 to 9 months usually, but can be less than 3, and then whatever procurement takes.
Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, 1 for Mun, and I spotted a hand up over here. Here we go. Oh, yes, getting the hang of this. Go for it.
It was a really quick question for all of you. Which product, not your own, has the best onboarding process?
Ooh, I've already answered that shortly. You guys, Mun, take it away.
That's a really hard question, really. Slack, I mean, I don't want to say Slack, but that is the answer. But if I had to pick outside of Slack, GoSquared.
I didn't pay that.
No, but I mean, these guys generally have done a great job. I tell my team actually to check out the product and the UX that GoSquared has actually put. And James obviously is great at it, and the team obviously executed really well. And if it's not Slack, there are tons to be fair, but right now I can't think of GoSquared.
Thanks, man.
I feel like Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it as you were talking, and I was like, all of them I use are pretty shit in general. So like, I think those are the right answers. I think, did you mean in a B2B? Just in general.
Because personally, Discord has a very slick process, including getting their desktop app done. So it's just teams on onboarding new customers.
Yeah. So like, I guess like recently, like the kind of I don't know, Uber is like pretty easy when like you're on board. Obviously, every time I sort of want to either forgot my password or anything, like it's just really easy to use any of these consumer. But
I was going to say some of the consumer apps have some of the best onboarding just because the volume and the self-service nature of it.
Because the B2B, I think a lot of the times, especially the ones that I'm overanalyzing, which is like potential competitors or like HR products and stuff, they just all listen to the person who's signing the contract. They never listen to the employee. So that's why I feel like in general they're not good, or I don't have good experiences. Like, I don't know, I use lots of other sort of SaaS tools for the business and they're not really good. Like nothing rings a bell.
Rich?
I've been playing around with an email client called Astro recently, and that does a pretty neat onboarding. It kind of takes a snapshot of your email. It does a really good job of telling you how it's processing it, and then it starts pulling out certain highlights. People you email frequently, should they be added to a certain list, what you have coming up in your calendar. I think they do a really good job of kind of keeping you informed during the onboarding process, which really is half the battle, because most people are on Reddit, so you need to battle that.
Awesome. I want to give a massive round of applause to our speakers. They've all given out their evenings tonight and given great talks, so thank you.